A big hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity with me, Sonali Krishna. As you can see, we're at a completely different location, not at the studio, we're actually at Social. This episode is all about being social as we close 2023. We think it's an interesting time to reflect on the year gone by. So to do that, we have an interesting, heady mix of advertising leaders, some who represent the traditional large agencies, some veterans who've quit that and started up, and we also have a relatively younger representation on this panel, and we're hoping to have a very elaborate discussion on the challenges of the industry, the opportunities, of course, and where this industry is heading as we get into 2024. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for gracing me with your presence. A quick round of introductions. First up, Arun Iyer, Prem Narayan, Raj Kamble, Raj Kurup, PG Aditiya, and Josy Paul. So let me start with you, PG Aditiya, as you're the youngest on the panel, all of 32. If you had to assess the advertising industry, look at 2023, we've just bounced back. 2023 was the year of resurgence. Things were supposed to be booming. If you had to define the year 2023 in all its beauty and ugliness, how would you define it?
I think it's been a great year. I think there's been a lot of very good work. I think I'm personally very motivated by jealousy as to do better work. I need to see someone having done really well, and I'll see that on my Twitter, on my LinkedIn, and I'll be like, man, what a great piece of work. Oh, that's why and that will spur you to think of something a little more. So honestly, my process comes from lots of negative motivation in that sense. And this year, I have been jealous more than I have been in the last 3-4 years since the pandemic began. There's been a ton of good work. Every 2 or 3 weeks, you have something or the other which somebody is trying. So there is a genuine effort, and I think that's visible across the spectrum. And it's led to some very, very good work so far.
Okay, I love that we're starting on such an optimistic note. But as we peel the layers, I'll come to you, Prem. In terms of just industry health, if you look at 2023, there's lots of stuff happening in the industry, and to collate all of that and to make something of it is getting tougher and tougher, right? So you have lots of brands who are very focused on tactical play. When I'm talking about tactical, I'm talking about, social media, moment marketing, performance marketing. Then you have different agency models which are trying different permutation combinations. You have players like, Arun Iyer, Raj Kurup, Raj Kamble, who are trying something else. So there's lots that happening, lots of good talent also leaving large agencies. So how would you compute the year and the trends we're seeing?
See, one to what PG was saying, on one hand, I think there's a lot of focus on fame. And I think marketeers want fame, which wasn't the case even a few years back. And that's healthy because that helps you put out stuff that gets noticed. And I think it's a necessity now because anything even above average or good ain't going to get noticed. So you have no real choice, right? So I think that's the plus side of it. From a pure satisfaction of work and the kind of work that people are putting out, I think that's a good big plus. I think marketeers want famous work. That I think is a big plus. On how the industry is transformed, I think everybody wants more, cheaper, better, faster. And that's a bit of a pain. But that's the reality. We either learn to adapt and live with it, or we disintegrate into many parts, which is, I guess, what's happening. I think some of these independent people are actually fantastic at one level because I think they're able to put out work, like he was saying, which is interesting, sparkling, new, and also motivating for the larger setups to look and say, okay, that's an interesting piece of work. What's happened, I think, is all of us were once part of some big setup, right? And I think the independents have the ability to focus on a few clients and give top quality talent. So that's the advantage. I think any mid to large setups like Josy's or mine, I think our ability to hold more number of good people for good lengths of time will decide how well we do. I think Ogilvy's been blessed We've had lots of good people around for 10, 15 years who've built brands over a long time. And there's lots of trust with the client, with us, right? But that is a real challenge. If you ask me what's the biggest challenge from a large agency point of view, it's about how many good people can we hold on to. That's, I think, what I see going towards.
Arun?
I tend to agree with Prem. I think I will even go on a limb and say that the CMO is the new CCO. The Chief Marketing Officer also operates a lot of CMOs operate like Chief Creative Officers now. And they're very deeply invested in the creative fame that they can get. My only thing is, and I'm probably the most outsider in this group, in this set of people, because I've moved away from the traditional agency, even from as a service model point of view. I think what I observe is the fact that I think there is too much emphasis on creative sparks versus building brands.
Absolutely.
And I think unless as an industry we wake up and stop only finding joy in creative sparks and ask ourselves a deeper question of saying, is a brand getting built? I think we are in for trouble. Because I think the focus, the consistency, and that I don't see. I think there are tons of creative sparks and very good ones, but they last a couple of months and then it's gone. And then the brand is doing something completely different with another great spark in a completely different direction. And I think that is the biggest factor which I think agency folks and marketeers are not thinking about. Because I think even marketeers are probably focused on a year or two of their career, see some of these sparks, party at Cannes, move on to the next job. And that's the God honest truth.
But is this trend that you've just talked about only in India or is it a global phenomenon?
I don't know enough about the globe, to be honest. I think globally, I think there are, and I think a little bit of this also happens to us because our exposure to global work is the better work. We don't see a lot of the middling work that actually goes on in these countries, like the Oscars. We see these films and we believe that's all the cinema that's going on. There's a ton of garbage that's going on. We don't get visibility on it. So,
But is their garbage a little better than our garbage?
I think that's our syndrome of looking up to them. I don't think so. In fact, I feel their garbage is worse than our garbage because our garbage is at least understood. So,
but waste management is a good thing.
Raj?
So, 23 has been a year of excitement. Excitement does not necessarily translate into money all the time. And I tend to agree with a few things that Prem said, and what Arun said. If you really look at, there is a certain commoditization that is happening, which is inevitable because finally at the end of the day, it's a procurement game. If you're playing a large tender, it's a CMO game. If you are, it's all about that one idea. You'll see a lot more projects, a lot more fragmented, teams getting out and doing new things, a lot of freelance coming up, right? I think it's all creating a lot of excitement in the market. Today, even if you look at most of the brands it's all about, can you get this to trend? Can this go viral? Which has become the more important. It's not about what is my brand going to say. And I agree with that entire thing. But I think that's also the need of the hour. Nobody has time to really sit down and nurture a brand anymore, actually. And for me, when I look at it, I'm only looking at how do you monetize excitement? Right, because to me that is going to be a question that that probably the larger players in the industry need to sort of ponder over. Because post-pandemic, nothing has been. And I think pandemic was a great leveler. At one side, the largest player lost more. The larger you are, the more you lost. That was what it was a very different way the market came into existence. And finally, at the end of the day. Nobody gives a damn about brands. Nobody gives a damn about anything. Finally, it's all about money, right? Finally, it's all about how are you able to monetize. Every brand wants to sell, finally, at the end of the day, right? I think the fundamental issue here is going to be if you really want a certain sense of, the what we have always had about, the whole, the fund our brands and all of these things to come back again. I think we need to figure out a way to make it. How do you monetize your brand? How do you monetize brand thinking is what I feel. Because nobody is interested in investing as much as monetizing. Every brand is thinking monetizing, not really investing anymore. This is what I have seen in 2023. That's really been predominantly.
Interesting. Raj?
I think a year ago, 23 year ending, we talked something like this, I remember, and 22, 23 year ending. I think I can talk about creative, what changes, few changes definitely. We were so scared about AI, what is going to happen. Now we start realizing last year what is AI means. Mid-journey was a big deal in the world of art and design. And first earlier when we prompt, we realized it, the images, but now this whole game is slightly exposing because all images look similar. So I think this whole tech is developing one side that we're scared, but today we're smiling and saying, no, this won't work anymore. You still need emotion, you still need to find human touch. I think earlier the tech was the top and human was bottom. I think it's a flip it. It's going to be tech isn't bottom and less talented people are going to be the top and they're going to handle the tech. AI is that. I think influencer marketing was another interesting conversation. Always laugh. I think if you don't use meaningful influencers, it's going to fail. So I think this world of tech went last year what I thought to this year. I think human intelligence is getting more value for coming year. I feel like that.
I hope that's true. I hope that's true.
I'm saying exactly opposite when everyone is saying it, but I'm experiencing it every day.
Okay. Josy?
Yeah, so I have a tremor, so I can sense things. Okay. I feel it's the year of pregnancy.
Pregnancy?
Yeah, because a lot of things are being born. Yeah, we're going through a lot of changes. There's a lot of expectancy. I can't put my finger on any one thing because everything is happening at the same time. Yeah, a lot of seeds are being sown. So I feel that it's this Bob Dylan kind of moment of times they are changing. And there's a rebirth happening because I'm personally going through it. I'm become my own mother. I'm giving birth to myself because of the way the world's hitting me. Yeah, whether it's through AI or any other sort of ethical issues related to AI or what's happening in political and other sort of issues, or the way clients are behaving, or the different clients who exist, from the legacy guys who've been well-trained to the young people who are saying, let's just do it. And so there's this amazing scramble of things. So I'm keeping myself super excited saying, hey, my cholesterol levels are going down because I'm so much more active trying to understand what's going on. So I'm cool, man. This is a year of pregnancy and I love it.
I love this year of pregnancy. What an interesting thing to say.
Okay, so let me just peel, layer by layer what everybody has said. I want to first delve into the fact that I think 2 or 3 players here said that the CMO today is the new CCO, and there is this hunger for fame that we've seen. Ever since I have known or looked at the advertising industry, the industry has always been hungry for fame. When you are saying the CMO is now hungry for fame, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And just to add another perspective, an average tenure of a CMO these days is about 4 years. So in that 4 years, is it about personal fame that I'm a CMO, so I hit 2 sixes and I'm out? And so what is the implication then for brand building?
Sonali, I think there are really smart ones at it. So I think a good CMO has figured out the 80% of his money that's going to drive his business. And they've got that right. And if you speak to the better ones, they tell you that that's important. But I think they're also to the point on pregnancy saying, boss, I don't know, let's learn. And spending 20% of their money on stuff that is new, which will make them famous, which will create new stuff. So I think the smart ones are doing that.
Okay.
And you will always find a spectrum. There may be ones who are okay, I want personal glory.
There are people like a Fernando, okay, who
Find this
was in a Dove earlier. He created Dove sketches, changed the brand, went to Burger King. He changed the brand. So I think somehow we are only as good as the CMO, as the agency. It's
No, I'm
his
saying
dream.
what is the big paradigm shift if today the CMO is the acting CCO, right? A lot of you who have been CCOs were CCOs.
I think earlier, Sonali, the onus on business and effectiveness was much more as they thought it to be, and the belief, I think the good ones got it, but the belief that great creativity lends itself to that is, I think, sunk in a far more now than it used to be before. And hence you will see that I think people like Byron Sharp and all that have contributed to this. I think now there's theory to prove that fame sells. Earlier there wasn't a convenient theory for them to attribute it. So there was a belief that if you did the more logical stuff, you will sell more. Today I think it's more prevalent, and I think...
So I also think that we also have to define fame, because I think what sometimes ends up happening is that you get a little bit of the frog in the well syndrome, right? So you end up looking for fame within the industry.
Absolutely.
And that to me is not necessarily something that should be a trip in life. It's good to get accolades from your friends and colleagues and the industry. But when that becomes the goal, that is where I see a little bit of a problem, because then you're lost sight of consumer, of building brands. You know, it's a little more of this echo chamber that you're looking to sort of feel gratification from. That's a slightly dangerous thing to fall into. But otherwise, getting fame for a brand with consumers is always a good thing. But can you do it consistently is a question I ask a lot of times to myself.
I personally feel that like a lot of, I think marketeers have wisened up quite a bit.
Wisened up?
Yes. I'll tell you why I see this. I wouldn't really relegate them to being just trying to be creative for the heck of it. I think they finally at the end of the day, their job is to drive a lot more excitement. So they become more chief excitement officer, right? So which on every brand. And that's what I see, that some of the marketers that I work with are extremely savvy and they know what they want for the brand. And they'll say that, look, IPL aa raha hai now, you look at this is how they think. IPL aa raha hai, I want to do something on IPL, right? Because you have to be a part of how do I get a share of conversation? Today, the only way to get a share of conversation is not trying to do something that is textbook, but something that is out of the box. Do something. To me, it's not necessarily a big problem. It's great to have marketers who are fame hungry, so to speak, in the way, but that's only just semantics. To me, they all want excitement. They want conversation, right? And I would rather feed that, and that's, to me, as an industry, we should embrace that and feel that some of the marketers that I work with are like, man, kuch todu karte hain, kuch aisa. Briefs have changed. It's not like...
But Raj, if I encounter, I think IPL is India's Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Last year's IPL, India IPL is the worst ad I've seen. I think not a single brilliant ad I saw it. Thank God, at least the purpose-driven ad going to go down this year, and the product will come back again. Finally, they'll be selling a product.
But an interesting thing to think about would be, and somebody should do this, take the last 5 years IPL and check all the people who have advertised. How many of them continue to be a brand that is of some reckoning, and how many are not? I won't be surprised if the answer is 0. And I don't know. I'm just saying, off the top of my mind, I'm not able to think of too many brands which still are very solid brands. They come like a flash and they go away. But even if you go back to the IPL when it began, like what Vodafone did consistently for many, many years on the IPL, there was a solid brand getting built out, right? So,
no, even I think the way companies are getting built overall has changed, right? And which is why, so if, like let's say earlier the only person who had to be convinced to build the brand is, let's say, the CMO who had to convince the CEO. Now the CEO needs to convince the VC. And the VC has 0 beeps to give about...
Not all of them.
Not all of them. No. In fact, wide disclaimer throughout this thing, when we say all, we don't mean all. We mean most. And we love those of you who are not part of this list. No, even when we say, oh, agency is this thing, we mean most. We are all exceptions. But, no, so like for instance, right, I was talking to someone about this, that there's this wonderful joke which is only a joke in Bangalore, and which is in the rest of the country, the opposite of profit is loss. In Bangalore, the opposite of profit is growth. Right, so the thing is, does that vocabulary around brand building still hold true for an organization that wants to build the same kind of rep as a legacy org, but which in its own reality might have to fire thousands of people over emails and phone tests? So where is your reputation as a company overall marrying to your idea of being this revered brand? And you're right, I think there is a sense of myopism around how far can we actually think.
And that's where, PG, I feel that's where building a brand becomes important, because only when you are a brand will some of these unfortunate incidents get forgiven. Otherwise, you're not going to be forgiven.
So on that, since we're talking about CMOs, again, guys, I've just realized there are 3 kinds of CMOs. One is a guy who says, I have a dream. The other guy says, I have a brief. And the third guy says, I want a Cannes award. So the first guy truly inspires, and I've met some of these guys, you can count them on your finger. I have a brief is very transactional and yaar kal de de, aaj de de type of guys. And I want a Cannes is the guy who's looking for
I love that
fame.
thing, Josy, but the biggest problem is the first kind, which a lot of us love. They all become CEOs.
No, but that's okay, right? They inspire the next,
Unfortunately,
right?
they move away from the pure play marketing role. They love it, but they stop being the pure play marketing role, and they obviously, and their growth path comes from becoming generalists and, and running. They have much larger fish to fry.
But to your earlier point, Arun, on, well, and I think that's what you had also started with, right? Like, does brand building or rather, does client building come at the cost of brand building?
Exactly.
Sometimes, right? So you do things for that person wants to ace this presentation, you're behind them to get their promotion, so on and so forth.
But that motivation, nothing's wrong with that
There's nothing wrong,
motivation.
absolutely,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with it.
All ambition is selfish, yeah?
And in fact,
And all greatness is selfish.
And to think that there is this, I completely agree with him, to externalize this idea that we are all going for that externalized idea of a brand. And as creative people, we all relate to it, right? We all go behind this externalized, intangible idea, then we'll give it. So I'm completely on board with how that works. At the same time, we are very, very good at client building. And I don't think that's a skill which should be considered antagonistic to brand building overall. I love it if I'm able to make my client get 3 promotions over like 3 or 4 years. Yeah, that's amazing for me. And if she or he chooses to quit her current organization, I will help them find interviews for the next job. That's what.
But underlying all of this, Sonali, is there is an assumption we have the power, which we don't.
So basically, we're all in the HR
Yeah, we are in
department.
service of a CMO or a CEO.
I said we're all in the HR department.
But
we are offering promotion.
There is a slightly interesting vocabulary to how we interpret ourselves as a service industry. Right now, earlier that interpretation only used to be okay at a project level, so on and so forth. But if you actually have super high trust relationships with brands, and like we have the best example of a high trust relationship between a large agency and a large brand, Ogilvy and Mondelez, which the entire country kind of knows about. I don't think that relationship has been built exclusively on one vocabulary only. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, sir, I'm sure there would have been parts where they focused on client building over brand building over client building, and it kind of went hand in hand. So
Yeah, but see, that example is also an aberration.
no, but aberration is a precedence.
Yes, but it's not the norm.
Sure.
Because we've discussed clients so much, I'm curious to know, how do you evaluate where the clients stand today? So has there been actually an evolution? You can say, yeah, wanting to capture the moment is the need of the hour, and hence it is evolution. Somebody can say that they are very, very myopic and they're living quarter se quarter tak, because that's what the market is demanding. And so it is actually regressive, right? And you've brought in points of there are large events which happen within organizations which have been normalized now, right? Which also impact, brand perception, not just their communication. So in all of that, where do you see the clients at?
So I'll tell you what they want. Not in terms of an idea, but they know that by mere paas 20 crore hai. In this 20 crores, or I have 2 crores, I want the best buzz that is possible. That's it, right? It's not quarter se quarter tak, it is campaign se campaign tak, right? It's all that they're looking at this juncture, because saying that, boss, I've been given, this is my budget, what can I do best? How can I be a part, how can I be a larger voice in the cacophony of everything that is happening?
I've met some great clients. I mean, I see them as DJs. Yeah, they mix amazing things. They know all about the customer, the consumer. They know about the market. They know about the business. They understand creative people. And they have a very good sense of the idea. And therefore, they play the role of a DJ. They mix these things. And for me, when I meet these guys, for me, I mean, I'll die for them. It's that kind of stuff. And I've seen those guys. And I'm sure each one of you have seen that. So if we can just look at these incredible people who have made all the wonderful work that all of you have done, then you know they exist and their type exists, and we can increase those types.
I think, and because we obviously, for a lot of our portfolio companies, we meet some of these people and then we kind of get them to do marketing for our companies. I think it's also a very complex landscape from their point of view. It's not at all, it's not straightforward, right? Like the good old marketing days. In the US, marketing is in the bones, right? In India, that's not the case. So now the marketing person has to come in and very logical, mostly IIT grads and stuff. Now he has to lay out what marketing can do to these founders, right? She or he or whoever they may be. So now they have to now suddenly define the landscape of marketing. They are not given a budget and said, okay, now you operate. So they have to now draw their own playground. And while drawing that playground, they also need to hit sixes. The pitch is not even laid out. So it's a complex landscape for them. So it's not easy. And I understand, because when we speak to some of these marketeers, the first thing they ask is, what are the budgets that I'll be operating with? Now there is no budget we have to figure out, because this company is just starting to market itself. So we have to figure this out together. So it is complicated for these companies, and which is why well-oiled machinery like a Mondelez or an Asian Paints or Levers and Lintas, these are all well-oiled machinery where people can come, people can go, but the machinery operates, right? So that, and to get to that, it's taken 25 years of rigor. That rigor, do we have the patience for or no? We will know in a few years.
What do you think?
Currently, the signs are, it doesn't show. I'll be very honest. It's not showing. But can it change? I think it can. Hopefully, some of us here can influence that change. And I think it's a responsibility.
I think there's 2-3 things, Sonali. One, I think every good piece of work happens because there's a good client. Correct. So if there are at least 20-25 pieces of work that India can be collectively proud of, there has been some good client who's bought the work. So due credit to them. I think the point that Arun raises is important on the short term versus the long term and the brand building. And I think the good days, there was consistency on all sides, including even filmmakers. Meaning, if you look at why Hutch got built, it was as much about the client, as much as the same creative people, as much as the director. So they were all in one sync. I worry if it's all become too short term on all ends. If we are rotating people every 1 year and they are rotating people, then I think we are perhaps moving towards a place which may not be so great. The third is, if our job is to influence millions of consumers, I think we have to take the onus in influencing our clients. It's at least 2 or 3 people, right? And I think one thing that collectively a lot of us in the room and outside should do is how much time do we invest in educating clients on things that they may not necessarily appreciate. And I don't think we make enough time to educate a junior brand manager on how to write a brief or evaluate a script or what goes into the creative person's mind. We just assume, and then we straight go into, oh, he doesn't get it or she doesn't get it. It's like if they came to us and said, what do you know about distribution, and started evaluating us on distribution or something else like that. Meaning, we don't know anything, dude. That's the truth. So I think if there's partnership and a sense of, okay, we need to educate each other somewhat at the junior levels and build some level of consistency in relationships, I think we're in a good place.
Yeah, and I think a sense of ownership needs to come in, right? Because I think you, at least for the brands which I built closely, there was a sense of ownership to a point where one of the brands recently I'd worked with, and all of us know Surf Excel, which became a $1 billion business in itself. I have left that organization. I have nothing to do with that brand, but I was called in to be part of the celebrations, and people who have all moved out. Gopal, who's now at Airtel, Sudhir, who's now at GCPL. Everybody was involved in that. There is a sense of ownership we all had around some of the brands which we have built closely. So I think that sense of ownership, that's what I keep joking, saying, Pehle, we used to get paid to do this, now we are paying money so that we have ownership. So
The other thing I want to bring up, since we've talked about remuneration, you brought it up, is this whole new way of payment, which is fee versus your old way, which was commission. Does anybody in the room disagree with the current way of remuneration, where it is fee-based, and think that the olden days of commission may have been a better way to remunerate the agency and agency's work?
No, but I don't know fee versus commission, Sonali, but I certainly feel we've reduced ourselves to getting paid for legs and hours and not for ideas. I don't know whether commission was the best model or fee necessarily is the best model, but I don't think we're being paid commiserately for the value we add to businesses, for sure. And I think that's a collective failure of the industry.
Absolutely.
But I have a slightly lateral point on that, and I think it's important to table that, because I think more than the money itself, I think it probably stems from agencies feeling insecure about holding on to their clients. And I think when that insecurity steps in, then you start cutting corners. You're okay with taking slashes on the money. And when multiple people start saying, okay, theek hai yaar, it's less money, I'll meet it this quarter, when that vicious cycle begins is where I think the value keeps eroding after.
No, that's a damn good point. It's self-reflection. If we are saying clients are short-termists, we should also think of how short-term are we when we make those calls.
You can't sustain. That is a suicide way to doing it. You take less money, then you have to pay money to good people. If you don't have a good people, your work is not good. If your work is not good, you lose the client. So I think,
But Raj, tell me one thing.
My wife said very interesting, 8 years ago, one ex-client paying you this money, after 8 years, the client paying 30% more. How? Everything changes. Media change, people change, but the remuneration still we are.
But Raj,
Just on that, I want to add one thing. I had this amazing experience where a Calcutta-based client in the meeting started telling me, come closer to me. So I was wondering why. So I came a little closer. He said, come even closer. Then I was like a bit suspicious. I said, no, come even closer. Then I'm right here. And he says, charge me more. Charge me more. I promise to God. See, the thing is, I want to see the bright side of life. Okay, we've got to be careful where we're going.
Josy, and you woke up after that, right? You woke up after that.
No, I didn't. It's truth, man. We've got to look at these things.
Can I have that number, please?
I'm worried we're kind of turning this conversation into a...
I don't think so,
No,
Josy.
I'm
I
very
think it's
happy with the tone of the
self-reflection.
conversation. It's
I
a
know
real
she's always happy
conversation.
about these things.
But to what he's saying, right? I think there is a lizard brain mentality to what Arun also said. This industry never started off with creativity being paid exclusively, right? It was an add-on from all of the media payments that used to kind of happen. So this very idea of pricing creativity by itself and the fact that it can be super expensive, I don't think a lot of us have been able to internalize the fact that yes, inherently this commodity is supposed to be super premium and
I think
expensive.
PG, the top agency has to charge the top money. Then the lowest agency can afford to survive. But the top agency start charging lowest money, the mid agency, low agency will die.
Correct. So
the industry will die. The top people should not compromise on the pricing. And we are the industry that way.
Yeah.
We should be not compromise it.
No, I agree with that, because what says that you are a full-blooded industry, right? You need to have a version of the service available at a really, really low price and another version of that service available at an extremely high price as well. Raj is right that we don't have that other end of the spectrum actively. We have a lot of us undercutting each other. So there is a cheaper version of that product if somebody wants it. But if someone says, no, you know what, I'm willing to pay 5x more, 10x more, then what do? They go and hire Droga 5, who ended up working on an Asian brand.
you can change the model.
Very funny is like the whole digital agency concept, because they buy media, So one of the digital agencies saying if you buy media, the creative is free.
And
Now
which is
I don't
where that
understand. We
inherent
don't buy
discipline
media.
comes in. Huh.
How are you going to sustain? So it's very weird place
But
we are
we
in.
started with creative being free and media being charged, right? That's how it began. So, and then there was a new model. Maybe there's a new model for this. Maybe there's a model where creative is free, but you charge for something else. What is open AI? What is inclusive? What is the World Wide Web? Everything's free, but money's coming from somewhere else. Otherwise, it won't be sustainable. Maybe our creativity should come in finding new models of payment instead of questioning what's happening because some guy who was 100 years before us created this model. I think there can be a new model for payment.
Or you can have a client from Calcutta who call you closer.
No, I just feel when I look at the idealism of the 60s and the open intelligence that they were, how did it all sustain itself? There was a model of payment that was different. Maybe we need a new model instead of fighting.
But no, it's not.
You know?
It has to come via discussion.
It'll
Josy.
come through a discussion or through innovation or through some sort of new idea. Because otherwise, the only way is one guy jumps out of the window and kills himself and says, I didn't agree with this model, so I did this. And then the whole industry will change. And that guy becomes the god of payment.
Unless there is some huge change in how marketing budgets overall is perceived, there is a fixed amount broadly. There's some amount of money that a brand already has fixed. Now that can get upped by 10-15% depending on whether they think there's some serious value in the partner that they're going with, etc. But I think there's yes, we can argue about whether that the form of payment itself is correct. But secondly, I think there's also in the detail of the way contracts are written, I think there are lots of points which I think we take for granted. I think non-compete, for instance, has to be priced in every relationship. The fact that a non-compete is taken for granted by most brands, the biggest legacy brands, don't have a non-compete with their agency where they say, like for instance, they can be working with Ogilvy and with Spring and with Famous and with CLA and with Talented at the same time, and we're supposed to be. No, sorry, sir. I just thought one full breath happened, and BBDO. With BBDO having the best scope of work, and all of us probably fighting for second, third, and fourth place. But the thing is, there are no non-competes that are shared that no, I won't work with your agency. Technically, all of us are competition. Technically, right?
Does any agency in this country have the courage to go into a pitch and say, hey, what your agency has been doing for you is damn good. I don't think I want to participate. The great brand is getting built. This example,
I tried this once.
Right, it didn't work, right?
I tried this once.
No, I also tried a couple of
I tried
times.
this once, and the reason given was, we worked with them for 10 years and we just need a fresh point of view. And I asked them, how many years have you been there?
Beautiful. We need more of these voices.
Maybe just going back to your
sure.
the main question, which is fee or commission.
Yes.
I think today it's no longer about fee versus commission. I think it's about what is the share of the marketing budget that I can get, because there's so much that has opened up, right? Just like we said, what PG was talking about, a supermarket getting into and the diversification that is happening today. The kind of organization that we are today, I can use tech, right? And there's a share of marketing budget that comes from there. I could use media, right? I could create ancillary services. Today, for example, if you want to just do 3D billboards for them, there is money in that, right? So if you really look at, for me, it's about what share of the marketing budget can I invest into, is what I would look at. And no longer, I don't care about fee, I don't care about commission.
No, I think that's a great point that Raj makes, and I've gone and asked some of our clients. And I think it's not like the share of marketing budget, so what they pay their agency stroke associates has come down. The share each one is getting has come down.
I just want to say something. Okay, maybe it may sound stupid and light and you guys can label me. But there was this one company that was in the home linen. They couldn't pay us much. So we told them to pay us in blankets. So the amount of blankets that would come every month, which we would give out to people, Their families were happy. People we sent it out to were happy. So you created a different kind of currency, yeah, which also gave you some emotional sort of feedback. And so I say, hey, that's cool, man. Like, okay, it affects the bottom line at some point, but it's cool for culture and it's cool for stories and it's cool for people who work there and they say, hey, we love this place, we want to work here.
But that's
that is an
on a
opportunity.
lighter note to what Josy is saying. I think the 2 points he made. I think both courage and fun are super important. The more we have of it, the better work we do. And maybe we are not fully there on both fronts.
Just to bring this back in, is it then a sign, and this industry probably can answer this, all of you sitting as representation, is that there's an oversupply today? So oversupply of creative agencies.
That's not true, Sonali. I mean, to the point about somebody said, why don't we charge a premium? And just let's look at our industry and look at some people who work very closely with us, which is filmmakers. The top 5 or 10 are clearly way above than the middle, and they are above the bottom, right? And I think there's enough room for perhaps as many agencies as
Does
you want.
everybody agree with that?
As long as there is quality demarcation.
It is, look, it is a buyer's market. Finally, at the end of the day, that's the truth about everything in the world today.
But it's also a demand supply thing, right, Raj, finally. So if the demand is so much and your supply is over exceeding the demand, then obviously there will be all of what we've just discussed.
The clients are saying there's not enough good supply.
That's what. I agree.
No, there is a diesel and there is still Levi's, right? Diesel is still charging $300 a jeans and still selling it. So there will be always a value for good creative. And I think client realizing it, I think it's the time client realizing more that the creative agency add value. It is going to be get more. I think every day the talent is getting lesser and lesser from this industry because of the money and the client realizing it this. And I'm telling you, in a few years, I think industry price will be 3 times more than today. I think it's going to change. That's optimistic. I'm really optimistic.
So what I'm saying is growth and work, they're connected, right? Normally you say, hey, show me the business, I'll give you my work. But I say, what if we show the work and let the work lead and let work be growth rather than growth be work, you know? And that's the only way, because that's all we know. If we can convert all that we know, what our expertise, what our joy is, what our passion is, what our love is, and use that in tremendous energy, then work will create growth, is what I feel. And that will align the world, you know? It's like musicians, man. It's like music. She told me don't get philosophical right at the beginning.
No philosophy.
No, but it's impossible to do this without philosophy. It's half philosophy only. Half of it goes. No, but to what he also said, like, yeah, it's probably a bear market, sure. But it's a great market for those exceptions who think they're damn good at what they do.
No, Sonali, the point is it's a people business. Just look at this. There are 4 people here. If it were oversupply, they wouldn't have succeeded. They're all extremely successful people, which means if there is great quality, there is somebody willing to buy your product. Which is why they're able to set up these 4 who are all startups. I know that.
Good. I do think that, look, in terms of the future, there will be a completely different model that's going to emerge.
What is that? Can you crystal gaze?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it here because...
Why not?
No, in the sense that let it emerge. There is something that is emerging.
No, but what is it? Like, what is the broad model that is emerging?
Because it's going to be, look, finally at the end of the day, it's going to be a cross between talent. Most agencies are going to become like talent representative houses, right? It will be on the time. It's all about time, talent, and technology. That's all it's going to be, the future. And when I speak about this future, it's not like 10 years from now. We're talking very soon, right? And even these whole conversation about AI, today, if you can harness that power, there is so much more that can happen. A lot of menial, or today, like today we sit so much time sitting on Photoshop, for example. Photoshop has got AI in it now, right? Soon it'll be all on voice prompt and command. I don't have to waste my time. A lot of that is going to get, if that is going to get sorted, and if that's going to take lesser time, and it's all going to be computing power, right? what are you going to base your business model on? You're going to base your business model on talent finally, right? So as long as you have the best talent, right, and you have that time, the clients would only want the best talent. They say, "Mere ko wo chahiye." They are not coming and saying that I want to work with this agency or that agency. They say, can you put that guy on this? And I want to get, why are directors sought after? Because I want to work with the Prakash Verma. I want to work with the Ram Madhwani, right? You're not calling them out by that. You will always, this is what's going to happen to advertising. We even put our office on the block, right? Like you can use our office. It's an event space. You were there last evening. That's revenue model for me. Right? Finally, at the end of the day, right? And everything should be, to me, it's about smartness is in being able to monetize every aspect of what you are. Whether it's just the name that you have, whether it's the space you have, the talent you have. Finally, it's about just monetizing the entire thing. Yeah. We're doing the same. Today we have Rolling Stone, right? And we monetize it, right? That's a very interesting way of looking at, brand cross-selling, what we just spoke about, right? Why just media? We own the publishing. Right? It changes world completely. Suddenly there's a quantum way of looking at it. So I think there is so much to do. It's, the excitement what Josy felt is palpable actually, right? It's all a question of saying that nothing is ever going to be the same. It is never, nothing, I hate the term good old. There is nothing good old. It's only good new, and it's really interesting. It's exciting to see somebody like PG doing the kind of work that these guys are doing. They're one of the most sought after names in most of the boardrooms today, which is exciting, right? And this will keep on happening. Next year there'll be somebody new who will come and be a part of this conversation, right? But over this entire thing, what finally remains is how practically do you go? How do you get maximum share of your of the client's budget? It does not matter. Sam Dan Bed. If you do internal communication, there's a lot of money in that, right? For the HR, there's such a lot of budget parked over there. Why are we not looking at it? We think we only do brand, big stuff, right? Today, just doing asset management for them, there are a lot of people who are making money. There is a company that we were looking at, just writing annual reports, 27 crore company. A 27 crore company just doing annual reports, right? That's it. So there are skill sets, there are newer things to aggregate. There's so much. Translation, just doing translation today. How much can you do? I mean, there are, if you look at Lionsgate, where it started by, with a lot of translation, where is it, right? Amazon story also, right? How did they get the entire thing? One business, you get it right and then sort of try and figure out ways and means to do that.
Well, I would say lots of moving pieces. We don't know how they're going to stack up. Lots of interesting issues discussed, which require discussion. And hopefully next year, we'll see a more unified industry voice instead of us just having conversation in groups and then revisiting the same topics over and over again. So much more power to the advertising world. Wishing you more courage and bravado as you face your clients, new and old, in 2024. Thank you so much.